Hey, good afternoon, John Donovan.
Hi, Marty, Keller.
Hey, did you know that we actually got rain here in Sacramento last night and this morning?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it was pretty serious.
We
So
had a
it's the first time I've
thunderstorm
seen rain since last winter.
Yeah, we had a thunderstorm move through here too yesterday.
Wow, so maybe it was across the whole state.
Yeah. Wow,
That's really cool.
it is cool.
So what's new and exciting in Oceanside?
I was having a conversation with my grandson, and I introduced him to a song from this guy named Crowder, and it's a Christian song. It's called "Good God Almighty," and I said, "Hey, Solomon, listen to this," and I played it for him. Right now, our favorite songs that he picked up for me, his two favorite is "Oh Blah Dee Blah Da" by the Beatles and "Werewolf of London." We listened to those over and over and over. Then I thought, because I really liked the music, I liked the upliftment, the feeling I got from this guy Crowder in this song, and he listened to it and he started singing along. He picked up the words real good, and then he said, "Oh my God, that is too good. I want to cry." And so we listened to it about 5 times, and then he was learning the words. And then I told him, I said, "I'm gonna play it again." He goes, "No, Grandpa, I don't want to cry anymore." And it was this joy and connectedness. And a day later or so, we were listening to it again, and he goes, "How does that guy know how to sing so well?" And I go, "He does, huh? He really sings it really well." And I showed him the video that they have out on YouTube. But it was incredible. And then I got into a conversation with him because the song mentions, good God Almighty. And I heard him say, "I have more God in me than you have in you." And I said, "Yes, you do." And he goes, "But how come I'm smaller?" I said, "Wow, that's an interesting question." Because God is spirit and he doesn't know the difference between big and little. He goes, "Oh," and then moved on. But it was an amazing, it was that admonition we hear, unless you become as these little children, in this feeling, sensing, innocent place. And he's real clear about what he likes and what he doesn't like. And having been nurtured the way he's been nurtured by myself and his mother, he's not afraid to say it. He just says, "I don't like that, Grandpa." I hugged him one time, and I hadn't shaved, and I picked him up and hugged him, and my cheek rubbed against his. I set him down, and he walks about 3 steps away, and he goes, "Grandpa," I go, "What?" "I don't like that." I go, "What?" He goes, "That's scratchy. I don't like that." And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." It was, yeah. So
He's got a birthday coming up.
he does, the 16th of September, one day after mine, and what, 5 days after?
6 days before mine.
Yeah, 6 before yours. So we were just talking about being Virgo triplets.
How old's he going to be?
6.
So is he going to school?
He's been going to school this will be his 4th year at Waldorf School. That's another reason he's in tune, because Waldorf School knows how to develop his physical body, his rhythm body, his movement body, and so he has access to his spiritual body. That's the goal in Waldorf School, is to get them in their bodies so that when they feel this spirit, and which is a testimony to what's happened here lately in my story, that he's able to express it.
Waldorf is the from Steiner, Rudolf Steiner, right?
Yeah, Rudolf Steiner started Waldorf back in 17th century, 18th century. And somebody, told him, all these teachings are well and good, but what about our kids? And so he developed the Waldorf school, and with all his principles about what's important. And what's important is that I learn to think with my whole body instead of just my head. And in our schools, my experience of our schools is they teach us to use our noggin. And they even say that, use your noggin, think, which completely dismisses our emotional, feeling, rhythm, movement, body, which connects us to us and everything around us.
We know that's something I wanted to talk to you about. Is this came up in one of our Rusty Nail meetings in the last week or two about this very topic, which is that accountability is a process by which I learn to integrate my feeling and thinking body. Because they're both part of who we are. You can't not think, just like you can't not feel. But often, as you were indicating, we're trained, and not just in our schools, but even in our families of origin, we're trained to dissociate the two.
Yes.
So, and we're not really, I got a Jesuit education in high school. I had a really first-class education of the mind.
Yes.
But we didn't learn anything about these things. We didn't learn the appropriateness of emotion, which is it's a pretty negligent thing to do for adolescents who are nothing but feeling.
Right.
And so we didn't talk about those things at all.
No.
We didn't have education in our emotional presence. It was
and you were actually admonished if you incorporated it into your presence, how you presented. And I believe the Jesuits I don't know if that's where self-flagellation came from, but I want to offer they were heavy users of it. In other words, anything that felt good was of the body, so you beat yourself over the back with a bunch of sticks, and so you can get it out of you.
Yeah, I don't think that originated with the Jebbies, but
okay,
they were.
But
their legacy, they were created to lead the Counter-Reformation.
Right.
They were called the shock troops of Jesus, and they were there to try to quash the Protestant rebellion against the formalism of the church. And it's particularly Martin Luther, who said that we don't need no stinking priests because we are directly connected to God ourselves. So all we need is to be able to read the Bible.
Exactly.
So, so yeah, what we're doing here is what I'm doing is working on healing the rift between my thinking body and my feeling body. And it's a slow but sure process.
Which I want to offer has nothing to do with the brain. The brain is a component of our thinking body.
And our feeling body.
And our feeling body. Yeah.
It's both there.
Yeah.
They're both there.
In the Greco-Roman ethic or epic, where we move to rational, logical expression, which is necessary. Don't get me wrong. It's necessary to know that we're individual sentient beings and not attached to any group or that we can think independently, think whole body, think emotion, feeling, thought, to disidentify with the tribe ethic or the tribe mentality. And then my I don't know what to call it, idea about why that is that so that we can experience this I am, so that we can then choose the service to others. Because service to others without knowing you're not that is not really a choice to service to others. If I identify myself as a individual sentient being, and then I choose to be in service to others, then there gives a meaning to it. It gives us it's choice. I'm choosing to be of service to others, and there's a whole lot more that goes with this, but basically I can choose to be in community. I can choose to understand unity from my individual self, instead of not having this capacity to recognize individual I separate from my nationality, my race, my culture, and then choose back into the group or the whole.
You know, it's ironic, but the ongoing political dilemma of humanity comes precisely in what you're talking about, the distinction between liberty and compulsion.
Yes.
And it's also ironic that that's what we're working on in accountability, because how much of the reason I come to these meetings, how much of the reason I came to you originally was because in spite of what I was thinking I wanted, I would act differently.
Yes.
Compelled by something I couldn't see. And let me make it present moment. So this week, again, I got myself assigned a task I did not want to do because I secretly was afraid of the potential negative result. So there I was again. I just had this experience a couple of weeks ago. I think I shared it on the podcast. I had to call somebody and ask for this person to do something that at some level I feared he would say no, and that would be my fault, and then people wouldn't love me.
Right.
And like, here it is again, this compulsion. And again, I think I shared this before. I couldn't even reach for the phone, as if something inside of my body was pulling my hand back.
Yes.
From the phone. So this is what we're talking about. I wasn't free. I became free because I have done this work long enough to know this is what's going on. What do I want?
Yeah.
To feel that compulsion, to feel that, to give it permission to be there.
Yes.
And to take a deep breath and pick up the phone and call.
And then you're at choice.
And of course, nothing happened everything happened the way if I didn't catastrophize, what's the opposite of catastrophizing?
Yeah.
Angelizing. Everything happened as if grace were utterly present, and the issue got worked out, and it's perfect. And it took a minute. And yet there it is. There's that, my thinking mind is going, I'm going to pick up the phone and call this gentleman and ask him this question. And my feeling body, my the compulsion was, don't do that.
Right.
Danger.
Yeah. And Gabriel Mate, I don't know which one wrote When the Body Says No, and then either Basil van der Kolk or Gabriel Mate, and then there's another book, I can't remember the name of it, but it's on the same line. When your body says, no, you're not going to do that, and you say, yes, I am, the compulsion always wins, or you find yourself in this white knuckling place of stress and anxiety, and the compulsion to, or the block, like moving your hand to it, you can feel the almost physical holdback, is a result of family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma, that thinks if you pick up that phone, you will die.
Right.
Something will happen to you where you become devalued or ostracized, and that's a death sentence. And you fight it, and it becomes worse. The more you fight it, the more times it happens, and you find yourself in that situation. When you embrace, accept, acknowledge, I'm compulsive, or I'm afraid, or oh, I want people to like me, so I don't know how to say no, or I don't know how to say what I want, and you own that, and then the body is validated, the trauma is validated. It's like, oh, you're finally listening to me. And then you can make a lucid choice. And in that lucid choice, in the frequency of the truth, I'm compulsive, or I have this block, and you feel that, it's a validation of the trauma, and you say, it is my intent to be kind, or is my intent to communicate. You find yourself able to do it. And it's not, it's what you resist persists and prevails. What you fight against, you strengthen. And everybody agrees with that, both those statements, until it comes to you or me, till it comes personal. Then it's like, no, I don't want to look foolish. I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look like a damn fool. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to fail. And it's like, it's good for everybody else. You can see them, oh, don't resist. What you resist persists. You can point it out to them. And then when it happens to you, you find yourself imprisoned in this, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. Yeah.
Imprisoned is the perfect verb. It's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
And the truth is, when I get into that, it doesn't even come with a story. It's just it's an emotion.
Yes.
It's like, I don't even go, oh, I'm afraid I'll screw it up or whatever. No, it's just like, I'm scared. The truth is, I'm terrified.
Talk about actually the body chemistry in that moment.
Sure.
And it's the moment of like, I don't want to drink, or I don't want to do this behavior, or I want to do this and I find that I can't. This mechanism, midbrain brainstem, says that if you do that, you will die. And then it sees you in the act of attempting it. And what it does is send a signal to our adrenal glands, and it kicks in adrenaline into the system. Boom, automatic. And the adrenaline is there for enable you to survive. So it will do whatever it needs to do physically, emotionally, and mentally to stop you. And we say, well, I'm in this compulsion, or I'm in this emotional place, when the truth is, adrenaline, triggered by the survival mechanism, reticular activating system, takes you out of your emotional body, takes you out of your mental, logical body, and puts you in a reactive mode. Whether the reactive mode is not able to, or find yourself doing whatever the obsession is over and over and over and over again. And it mimics emotions, because your palms get sweaty, your heart races, and it's those sweaty palms and heart racing is actually a tactic to get your body in a fight, flight, freeze, please mode, and you're actually out of your emotional sense capacity, you're out of your mental sense, you lose yourself, you lose the situation, and you lose the other person. The other person becomes a monster attacker, situation becomes dire, threatening, and you're gone too, because You don't have a sense of self or your own power. This came up in a talk with somebody I had recently, where she said, I'm emotional. And my sense of where she was at is in a reactive mode. So I talked to her about whatever the situation was, that her body has produced adrenaline. And see, that's what we all need as children to shut down, fight, flight, freeze. For us to freeze and stuff, there's a shot of adrenaline that has to happen for us to negate the emotion or the hurt or the pain and or please. So we get so used to having this adrenaline rush that we've normalized it and then tag that emotions, which is devastating to the person in that experience because it gives you no way out. You are stuck. There's something wrong with you. You're defective, and or you live in a world that isn't safe, and all these people are trying to get you.
Is that what's going on when we're working with people and on the accountability process, the accountability tree, and we say, so how do you feel when you say such and such? And people often say, I can't feel anything.
Yeah.
Is that because there's an adrenaline masking going on?
Yes. And actually, to recognize that numbness is the feeling underneath the adrenaline, if it's free, depending on what their response is. And to me, that would be reasonable to say that that's the freeze place, or that stuck place where you can't get your hand to move, where you feel frozen. That's and I'm not sure, because the freeze mode in a life or death situation is that you actually drop and you appear lifeless.
Correct.
Okay. So in an animal, their breathing would go down, their heart rate would go down. And that's the last ditch effort, because if the tiger, lion, panther lets loose on the neck, boom, you bolt and you're gone. Okay, so that's a survival mechanism. If it happens to you or I, and I'm going to speak from my idea of what a man should be, I should not ever be weak and be immobile. So I will deny that, or I will couch it in a different way. I will make it sound like something different. And we've been trained to use this term emotion to demean and diminish ourselves. Oh, I was being emotional. No, you were in a life or death situation, and I'm going to use my example of the toast is burnt. And it really wasn't a life or death situation, but in the childhood memory, it certainly was. Whatever happened at the breakfast table, or whatever happened at the dinner table, or whatever happened in the kitchen was a life or death, was a diminishment, a demeaning, ridicule. And to that child, to have to shut down their exuberance of life is takes adrenaline. So yeah. And what I do in that situation, Marty, is okay, numb. Just be numb, be that. And that's a validation of where you're at. And then from that numb, there's a learning process about what a body sensation is at all. I had this long time ago, this gentleman, I was doing the occupational massage therapy, and I asked him what he was feeling, and he started saying all these things, and I got that it was pretty flat. He was just saying what he thought I was asking him. And I said, well, would you consider you're not feeling anything right now? And he goes, what? And I said, would you consider that you don't know how to feel, or if you had a feeling, you wouldn't know what it was? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, okay, that's numb. Would you be willing to just state, I am numb? And he did it. And in that validation of his state, the truth in the accountability tree, I am numb, his emotional body, he validated his truth, which came from his child of origin. He started, no, here's what I did. I said, when you have to go to the bathroom, where do you feel that? And he pointed to his lower abdomen. I said, that is a feeling. That's what I'm talking about. So feel numb. And then I said, just breathe. I didn't at the time take people to I intend, just be in the feeling. And I felt a shift. I said, what are you feeling now? He said, fear. I said, oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. I said, breathe into that. He took breaths into that for a couple minutes or so. And I felt another shot. I said, what are you feeling now? He says, angry. And he goes, I don't know what at. And I said, oh, that's okay. Just feel whatever that is, feel it. And I took him through this process, and he had a memory of when he was a kid and so happened. I don't remember what it was. And he got the connection between the trauma and his inability to feel. And it was powerful. So yeah, that's what we're doing in the accountability tree process, is introducing, especially newcomers, to the concept, to the experience of feeling body. Before I got into recovery, feelings, I didn't even, if you started talking about feelings, I just left the room, just like, this is bullshit. And I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I was accused of being muted, not excitable. It's like, don't you feel anything? And I go, what should I feel? Tell me what I should feel. I'll feel that. It's like, so in the accountability tree practice, what we're doing is introducing people to physical body sensations, which is the body's acknowledgement that I'm in an emotional state. Emotions are invisible frequencies. The feeling body is I've just received information. I'm feeling happy, sad, hurt. And then the moving towards relief. If you know you're sad, afraid, hurt, you can do something to move yourself to some other place. If you don't know that you're the emotion, happy, sad, hurt, and you don't recognize it in your body, you start, well, what I did was attack or leave the situation. Those patterns of behavior, like say something sarcastic or cutting, or leave the room, screaming, yelling, posturing, slamming doors, and not understanding why I was doing any of that, and saying to myself, I don't want to do this, and yet finding myself in that pattern of behavior time after time after time after time. So this is, wow. This is the nexus of the work, is simply enabling me to recognize my emotional feeling body. It's always there. I'm real good at denying it, pushing it away, creating adrenaline so it goes away. Fight, flight, freeze, please, the survival places. And I don't know that that's going on. So then I got to come up with a rational reason of why either I'm a jerk or I'm right, everybody's assholes or manipulative, or women are manipulative and they want to emasculate me, and they want all this stuff I made up to explain my behavior, my patterns of behavior. When the truth was, I was not connected to my emotional feeling body.
So I'd like to introduce an idea from what we're talking about, circling back to the introduction of this conversation, which is the relationship between the thinking mind and the feeling body, or the feeling mind, we might actually say. And what I've noticed is that until I got into the accountability work, that my mind my thinking mind was the ally of my traumatized child to keep me safe from feeling things that were too frightening to feel.
Right.
Now, what I'm doing is I'm actually working on turning my thinking mind into an ally of the accountability work, because I now become aware when a compulsion is showing up. My mind goes, oh, a compulsion is showing up. Is this an opportunity to do the tree?
Yes.
So now my thinking mind is no longer automatically engaged in the dissociation that it was trained to do, that my little kid trained my mind to do, because my mind grew up out of my emotional body, age 4, 5, 6. Now I can use that. I can retrain my mind. This is the good news. The mind can be retrained. It takes diligence and it takes practice and it takes focus and commitment, but it works, because the mind, like the feeling body, is actually neutral. It's an apparatus that does what it's programmed to do. So reprogramming is possible, and now the mind becomes an ally.
Okay. Well, if depending on your definition of mind,
right? So I'm talking about the thinking mind.
You're not.
No, I was.
Okay. So that thinking, here's my perception of the mind, is a what's the word? A capacity to respond in the moment holistically. So my mind is my emotional feeling body, heart space, in coherence with my rational deductive reasoning power. So it's actually one thing. My mind is my rational, what I use for thinking mind, rational mind, is that it just rational ability to deduct, be deductive, to see the difference and know the difference, then make a choice. That's our rational mind. And to break that down into parts is, in my, where I'm at now, not necessary. When I'm speaking to you, or I'm, especially in this podcast place I get, or I'm facilitating a group, I am not thinking. I don't have, well, if this happens, that happens, and if she says that, I'll say this. I simply listen, whole body, whole mind, and then respond. And usually what I respond with is a surprise to me. Not usually, but it's no longer as much of a surprise when I hear myself say what I say. And it's coming from that combination, that holistic aspect of my humanity, of me being a human being. And the thinking mind, or the 5 senses, simply keep me from bumping my head on low-hanging objects. It's usually like to duck, or that's now. I want to also say there's what we're doing in this Greco-Roman rational, logical mind. It is addressing this part of ourselves, that rational part of ourselves, in the understanding that we're separate, so that we can then choose to make a real choice to be part of the community. And it's not the boss. In fact, it's a part, an intrinsic, integral, necessary part of this mind-body connection. I mean, without the rational mind, that development of the prefrontal cortex and the connection into the midbrain, and however that works, we would be tribal or group think or whatever it is we evolved from to what we're evolving to. So the rational mind is extremely important, and yet it is still part of a whole, an integral part. Me having the capacity to lead with my heart, necessarily I engage that rational part of my mind for discernment of when to say, what to say, to what intensity to say or not.
Right. I think that's what I was getting at, is that the mind becomes the servant of this deeper truth that we've opened ourselves to experiencing and acknowledging.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so that way it becomes our ally, whereas before it was the ally of keeping ourselves safe.
There you go.
And so for the person who might be listening to this for the first time, it might be confusing. So I want to see if I can't offer a simpler example. And all I'm talking about is that experience that we have where our minds tell us the same thing over and over and over again when we feel stuck. So it's like, we often use the word catastrophizing here. It's a thought that something terrible is going to happen. And I keep having that same thought. I'm feeling this adrenaline rush. My heartbeat is elevated. I might be sweating. My palms are sweating, whatever. And my mind is saying the same thing over and over again. And I cannot think something differently.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about, the thought producing part of the mind that, that tells stories about ourselves and about our situation. My story here is, I can't make this phone call because I'm going to piss people off because the person's going to say no. Now the actual person is not involved in this because the actual person hasn't even been asked anything, much less given the opportunity to respond. So I'm in the story, and that's the part of the thinking mind I'm talking about. Now you're also talking about that part of the mind that is capable of doing computation and analysis.
Yes.
So that's a function that's part of this mental structure, this mental machine that we have inside of us that can do all of these things. And oftentimes, this is where I want to talk about the compulsion. Oftentimes, the storytelling part of my thinking mentation trumps the logical side that says there's nothing there to be afraid of. That's not a snake, that's a rope.
Right.
And my storytelling mind goes, bullshit, that's a snake and we got to run.
Right.
So, and what we're doing here is we're learning to not only create the distinction, and that's the question in the very first question we ask in the accountability practices, what do I feel? And as you were saying earlier, with respect to the gentleman that you were working with in the massage thing, is it doesn't matter what the answer is.
No.
The answer can be, I don't feel anything, or the answer can be, I feel abject terror. The answer can be, I feel joy. What we're teaching ourselves to do is to notice how we feel and just be with it. To notice the sensation. I love that thing that you said. I've never heard you say it before about helping someone say, well, when you have to urinate, how do you feel? How do you know? And like, yeah, that's a sensation. And that's an identifiable sensation that also has a thought added to it. I need to go to the bathroom. And that's the partnership there that we're working on bringing into alignment with those hidden truths that our emotional body is seeking to have acknowledged by the thought, by the thinking body. And so that's why the accountability process, again, it's brilliant because it seeks to bypass the storyteller long enough to get into acknowledging of the actual feeling state.
Yes.
And how oftentimes do we work with people, when you ask them how they feel, they say, I feel like I can't do this because, and then it's like, the story is there. It's like, okay, that's the story. Beautiful. How do you feel when you tell the story? How do you feel when you say that? and to help people, including myself, get back into that feeling body, because that's where the truth is. Before there's a story, there's a feeling. And as I can be connected with that and present with it, I can actually also now develop the capacity to notice that there is a story that comes with it.
Yes.
And that I do not have to generate that story anymore as truth. It's just a story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the second part of the practice is, okay, feeling the way I feel, what do I want to feel? And what I learned early on in working with you was to, when you would ask, what do you want? My intention was to use the first word that jumped into my mind as the answer. Because I sense that that's the intuition answering the question.
Yeah.
That's the emotional body responding, because I didn't want my mind to think about it.
Right.
I didn't want the thoughtful answer. I wanted the spontaneous answer.
Yes. Wow.
And then, so I say, okay, I just want to feel, and oftentimes I see this, people say, I just want to feel relief.
Yeah.
I say, okay, and so how does relief feel for you? And then that's when people open up to, oh, I just want to feel at ease. I want to feel comfortable in my own skin, whatever it is, and say, okay, would you be willing to state that as an intention for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now the thinking mind can come back and analyze what just happened, because it will.
Mm-hmm.
We can't stop our minds from, you can't stop the analytical brain from analyzing. That's what it does.
Right.
But now it notices all of the stuff that just happened. And it says, oh, that story that shows up when that feeling shows up doesn't have to be in charge anymore. Because now I said what I want is I want to feel peace.
Yes. And what we're doing is increasing their frame of reference.
Exactly.
We talk about the reticular activating system filtering out non-essential information based on what the focus is, and focus being a survival one to drop into the please aspect of this survival mechanism. The information about how to set a healthy boundary is now available to us. How to say no, even just to say no. But the information, or the how to, the what for, actually is now available. It comes through this filtering mechanism, which before it did not want to hear. And I'm saying it like it's a sentient being, and it is focused on maintaining its survival.
Well, it was programmed not to hear.
Right. Yes. I like that. Yeah. It's programmed to keep you safe.
Right.
And based on your experience, this is safe. Don't mess with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And I want to share with especially the newcomers, my experience is that this mechanism doesn't stop doing its defense, even with all this information that I have.
Right.
It's still, just like I was sharing this week, it's always on notice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fire department. The minute there's alarm, the trucks come out, the sirens go on, and the adrenaline rushes. But what's different is I have a completely different experience and relationship with it. It's like it's no longer, the compulsion is no longer who I am. I'm no longer my compulsions. I have compulsions.
Right.
And I have tools to discern what's really going on, to determine how I want to respond to this compulsion. Whereas before, I would just freak. I would just get into the fight, flight, freeze, whatever it is. Usually mine is flight. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. Which is why I just flashed in my mind. See, my thinking mind's helping me here. Which is why I don't want to reach to the phone, because my orientation is to run. And doing this is the opposite of running.
Yes.
So my emotional body is trying to pull me back to get out of there.
Yes. Just like your hand would move back at the first sense of heat from a hot object.
Exactly.
And it does it before you're aware of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's how powerful this mechanism is.
And just
And then
to continue the analogy, just as a little kid puts his hand or her hand on the stove, eventually has a thought about that. Oh, I'm going to stay away from these things. And so now the feeling body and the thinking mind are allied.
yes.
So my thinking body is allied for me in supporting the compulsions and now going through accountability for a number of years. My thinking mind now notices that this is an automatic trigger. This is the story that comes up. And now what do I want?
Yeah.
How do I want to be with this?
And that's moving from reactive to proactive. That puts a space in between the reaction and, oh, now you're at a place of choice.
Exactly.
Where before you were at a place of reaction.
And this is what we started the conversation with. It's like the capacity to be free to make a choice is a superior way for our humanity than to be stuck in compulsion.
Yes.
Because when I make a choice, now this goes to your model about the subconscious. Every time I make a free and open choice, that also gets registered in my subconscious as a possibility to do the same the next time.
Yes.
So slowly but surely, we're generating, with the support of our higher power, however you want to think about it, we're generating a shift in that reticular activating system that no longer automatically sees the catastrophe ahead, but now sees that I'm seeing a catastrophe ahead and says, okay, here's a chance to bring the practice into focus. What do I want? How do I feel? What's the issue? What's the truth? And everything changes.
Everything changes.
Sometimes I can't do it. Sometimes the compulsion is overwhelming and I just let go and be compelled. And I still can bring it to the meeting and work on it and still, it's like revel in my character defects, as you would say.
And still maintain your capacity to facilitate even though you're not perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or just maintain my capacity to be in my life.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
To be in my life the way that it brings satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. And meaning and connection and
joy,
value, worth.
Yeah.
All the things we're looking for.
Exactly. So this is just another, for those of you again watching for the first time or so, this is just another way to take a look at this fundamental practice that we call accountability practice. The capacity to access the truth of what's going on, particularly when we're agitated, anxious, we're out of sorts, we're in a feeling that something's wrong, that may not be in correspondence with what's actually going on. It's the burnt toast, John's idea of the burnt toast, which has to do with being in a relationship with a wife, a partner, whatever, and she burns the toast on a Saturday morning and you get freaked out.
I get freaked out.
You get that feeling of anger or whatever, fear, and it's just toast.
And it's just toast.
So the accountability practice is there to help us turn the toast back into toast instead of a life or death situation.
Right. Wow. Very good. Wow. Yeah.
So I want to share with us. I may not be able to do this next week. It's the day before my 70th birthday party, and people are coming in from out of town. So I may not be able to do this, and I definitely won't be able to do it the week after that because I'm going to be back east to a wedding for my nephew.
Oh, okay.
So
Let
I
me.
I get feedback from people who watch these podcasts that they miss us when we don't do this. So at least I want to give people a heads up. We may not be doing this next week.
Yeah, and I'll put a maybe on next week, and cancellation on the week after,
Correct.
24th.
Correct. So I want to offer you an early happy birthday.
Well, thank you, and same to you.
Well, thanks. I was thinking it's kind of interesting that we celebrate birthdays. It's interesting that we, as a culture, and I think this is probably universal in cultures, that we use the years of our lives as the markers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm turning 70. Well, okay, we can make that mean something. Or the earth went around the sun 70 times since I was born.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I decided that birthdays that end in zeros as I get older and older they're nice markers. They're nice opportunities to reflect and enjoy.
They're actually good news instead of bad news.
Yeah.
The good news, you're here to say it. The
Right.
bad news would be you're someplace else not able to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. So as always, I'd like to offer you the last word before we wrap up.
I don't have one. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Yeah. I've come to a place where I am able to participate well in the struggle that I find myself in my life. I do it with grace and generosity. So yeah.
And fun.
And fun.
Not to put words in your mouth, but
yeah.
I intend to have fun in my life.
Yeah. That's what I'm working on there, Marty.
Okay.
That's a whole new other story. But
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
And again, thanks to those of you who listen to these. If you'd like to participate in any of the groups that we run, my email address and John's email address will be on the screen at the end of the podcast. Just shoot us a note. We have a meeting on Monday night and Thursday night at 6:30, and John facilitates a meeting Saturday mornings at 8:30. And there's also a meeting on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock for men only. These are all Pacific time, but anybody's welcome from any time zone. And we do have folks that participate from other parts of the world. So please feel free to check us out. We'd love to have you. You don't have to say anything in your first meeting. You can come and just be quiet.
Yeah.
But the best way to understand this process is to experience it. And so these meetings, they're an hour and a half or 2 hours. Each is a little bit different in length. So there's plenty of time to observe the folks that are working through the process. So
yeah.
Thank you for that, John. Thanks for being my mentor, and I look forward to talking to you at the next one.
You got it.
Okay, all right, brother. Take care.
Love you.
Love you too.